Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I was watching Mufti Abu Layth yesterday in his Meaning with Mufti Abu Layth series, and he was talking about the virgin birth of Christ. And as you all know, that Mufti Abu Layth does not believe that Christ was born from a virgin, and he says that this goes against reason. I would disagree with Mufti Abu Layth, even though I am a big fan of his. I do not think that the virgin birth of Christ goes against reason. That being said, I would also like to point out that if you think that scientifically this is not possible, then we then based upon science, just because we do not observe something, that doesn't mean that it is impossible. Because going by that logic, we cannot even prove scientifically. I'm not saying that from the common sense or from the rational point we cannot prove, but scientifically with uh, I mean, according to the observation, we cannot prove that God exists because we cannot observe God. We cannot prove that Akhirat exists, but because we cannot physically absorb it. We cannot prove that Jannah exists, and we cannot prove that Jahannam exists. We cannot prove that angel exists just because we cannot observe them. So this virgin birth of Christ is not against reason or logic. The virgin birth of Christ is against observation. We won't observe any human giving virgin birth, or we cannot prove scientifically that any human can give a virgin birth. Now, just because we cannot prove it scientifically, that doesn't mean it goes against reason. Because, as I said before, that if that means, then even we cannot prove scientifically God, we cannot scientifically prove that heaven exists, we cannot scientifically prove that hell exists, that akhirat exists, that angels exist, that jinn exist. We cannot even scientifically prove that, at least till now. And there is also an article I have read, that Parthenogenesis, I feel this is the correct word, I may be wrong regarding the pronunciation, that and according to that report, it is possible for human beings to give virgin birth. I mean, there are examples of living creatures giving virgin birth. So, drawing an analogy from that if it is possible for some species to give virgin birth, why can't that be in human? Especially when they try to compare homosexuality with the animals, they are trying to prove that homosexuality is natural. So, if I give the example of Parthenogenesis, that even some living organism, and even I have read some research that it is also possible for the human beings to give virgin birth. So, if that is possible, then why can't the virgin birth of Christ is possible? And the verses which speaks of the virgin birth of Christ, I think it's quite unambiguous. I mean, there is the Quran does not explicitly says, but the way Quran presents the case, it definitely proves that the Christ was born from a virgin. Otherwise, the Quran wouldn't have said that. How can Mary? I mean, the Jewish tribe said, "How can you have a?" But Mary asked the angel, "How can I have a child when no man has touched me?" What was she proving? What was the point she want to say across? I mean, it's no point of that verse if she was not a virgin, and her accusation, when she was accused that your father and your family was not baghia. The word used in Arabic is baghia, which means rebellious. It can also mean as unjust. Even then, Mary never said that I have married someone and I have given birth through him. Uh, when Mary, peace be upon him, brought the child. So what are the points of these verses? If you think that Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, was not born out of uh, virginity, so I feel that this view of Mufti Abu Layth, even though his other views on Jesus Christ, like the second coming of Jesus Christ, do make some sense. I can give credit to Mufti Abu Layth on the what his opinion on the second coming of Christ is quite based on evidences. I feel, especially from the Quran. But when you read Quran, I feel that anyone who reads Quran with a neutral mind will conclude that it is talking about the virgin birth of the Christ. And also, I would like to ask him that if the Christ did not have any virgin birth, then why didn't Quran make it a point to refute the Christians? Because Quran has always refuted the Christians upon their false ideas. Quran has always refuted that. Even I can say that Quran, when you present this idea of second coming of Jesus, Quran explicitly says, "Inni mutawaffika," that we have caused him to die. But there is no uh, condemnation of Quran regarding the virgin birth of Christ. Why is that so? So I do not feel that the virgin birth of Christ is against reason. It can be justified, especially by drawing an analogy to Parthenogenesis. If I'm pronouncing it correctly, I don't know, but anyone can Google it. That can a person give birth without any male intervention, or give birth being virgin, then you can find this word, because I have done the same. So I do not think even against science as a whole, if you consider science as a whole, that it is against science to believe that a human can be. I know that that's highly unlikely, that's highly rare, but saying that that's impossible, especially with regards to the prophets, where they are expected some kind of a miracle or a sign, whatever you would like to call it, some kind of a different power which they were given, some kind of different distinguishing character that they were given. I do not think that it goes anywhere uh, against reason. It may go against observation, I agree with you, but I do not think it goes against reason. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.